Just when Taylor and Deacon seem ready to stop hiding what they feel, the bold and the beautiful may be setting up a brand new threat to their future. And this time, it may not be Sheila. It may be Ridge. That is what makes this storyline so interesting right now. On the surface, Ridge can say all the right things. He can claim he is only worried about Taylor's safety. He can insist that Deacon still brings too much danger into her life. And to be fair, part of that concern is probably real. Sheila's shadow is still hanging over everything, and nobody can blame Ridge for fearing that one wrong move could put Taylor in harm's way again. But what if that is not the whole story? Because once Sheila agrees to let Deacon go and their marriage truly starts falling apart, Ridge may lose the one excuse that made his interference look reasonable. And if he still keeps pushing Deacon away after that, then the situation starts to look very different. It starts to look personal. So the big question may no longer be whether Taylor and Deacon can survive Sheila. It may be whether they can survive Ridge's growing inability to accept that Taylor has chosen someone else. Before we dive in, tell me in the comments, do you think Ridge is genuinely protecting Taylor, or is he secretly jealous of Deacon? And if you enjoy these bold and the beautiful spoiler breakdowns, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more daily drama. Ridge already tried to warn Deacon to stay away from Taylor, and that clearly did not work. That matters, because Ridge is not used to being ignored when it comes to Taylor. For years, no matter how complicated things became, there was always this belief hanging in the air that Taylor and Ridge were never truly finished. That their bond could always be reawakened. That if life shifted the right way, Taylor would somehow circle back to him. But now Deacon has disrupted that familiar pattern. Taylor is not just leaning on Deacon for comfort. She actually loves him. She feels something real, something powerful, and something strong enough to survive outside judgment. That may be the part Ridge cannot easily process. It is one thing for Taylor to date someone casually. It is another thing entirely for her to start building an emotional future with a man Ridge does not respect. And the more Ridge realizes his warning had no effect, the more likely he may be to escalate. Not necessarily with threats, not necessarily with open anger, but with presence, with pressure, with that classic Ridge habit of staying emotionally close enough to influence Taylor while pretending he is only there to support her. That is where things could get messy. Because sometimes the most effective interference is not loud. Sometimes it comes through concern, timing, and emotional history. Ridge knows Taylor's weak spots. He knows how to make her feel understood. He knows how to step into a vulnerable moment and remind her of everything they once had. If he starts doing that while she is trying to build something with Deacon, then Ridge may become far more disruptive than Sheila ever was. One of the biggest twists in this storyline is that Sheila may eventually agree to end her marriage and let Taylor have Deacon. If that happens, it should remove the most obvious obstacle. No more triangle. No more marriage standing in the way. No more argument that Taylor is stepping into a situation that is already claimed. And yet Ridge still may not back off. That is why his next moves could reveal so much. Because if Sheila is no longer the immediate issue, Ridge will have to confront a more uncomfortable truth. Maybe he simply cannot stand the idea of Taylor being with Deacon. Not because of danger, not because of Sheila, but because Ridge truly does not see Deacon as worthy of her. From Ridge's point of view, that may sound noble. He may believe Taylor deserves stability, class, and a man who fits the life she is supposed to have. But that kind of thinking can also become arrogant very quickly, especially on a soap, where "not good enough" often means "not the man I would have chosen for you." And that opens the door to a bigger emotional conflict. Because Taylor may finally be with someone who makes her feel wanted without conditions. Someone who sees her not as a fallback, not as a second choice, and not as a woman who exists only when Ridge is disappointed with Brooke. Deacon may not be perfect. He may bring baggage, complications, and risk. But to Taylor, he may also feel refreshingly direct. That is exactly why Ridge may see him as such a threat. Not because Deacon is stronger than Ridge, but because Deacon may be offering Taylor something Ridge failed to protect for years: emotional certainty. This is where the storyline could become much more emotional. Taylor can tell herself that Deacon helped her heal. She can believe that this relationship is proof she has moved on. She can insist that Ridge is part of her past. But The Bold and the Beautiful has a long history of reminding viewers that Ridge is never fully out of Taylor's system. And that could be the real danger ahead. Because no matter how sincere Taylor feels with Deacon right now, Ridge may always remain her most complicated emotional trigger. He is familiar. He is unfinished. He represents both heartbreak and hope. And those are often the hardest feelings to break away from. So what happens if Taylor and Deacon hit their first serious disappointment? That is when Ridge becomes truly important. Because happiness never lasts quietly in soap romances. There will be a letdown, a misunderstanding, a betrayal, or maybe just a painful reminder that Deacon still carries chaos with him no matter how much he changes. And if Taylor is wounded at the exact moment Ridge steps in with comfort instead of criticism, that could shake everything. Ridge would not even have to say, "I told you so." In fact, it may be more dangerous if he does not. If Ridge offers Taylor a shoulder to cry on, a place to feel safe, and the kind of emotional closeness that used to define them, then old feelings could come rushing back before Taylor even realizes what is happening. Sometimes a love triangle does not restart with a kiss. Sometimes it restarts with comfort. And on this show, comfort is often more intimate than passion. Of course, this does not all depend on Ridge. Deacon himself may end up handing Ridge the opportunity. That is another reason this story has so much potential. Right now, Taylor may see Deacon as the man who understands her, stands by her, and makes her feel chosen. But soap relationships are fragile, especially when they move from forbidden excitement into real-life commitment. Once the thrill settles, the flaws become louder. The differences become harder to ignore. And the future starts demanding answers that romance alone cannot provide. Can Deacon truly give Taylor the life she wants? Can he stay steady when pressure hits? Can he prove that his love is stronger than the instability that seems to follow him? Those questions matter, because if Deacon disappoints Taylor in a meaningful way, Ridge will not need to destroy the relationship himself. He will just need to be there when the cracks appear. And Ridge knows exactly how to do that. He can show up with empathy. He can become the safe choice again. He can remind Taylor of history, family, and emotional familiarity. Suddenly, Deacon would not just be competing with Ridge the man. He would be competing with Ridge the refuge. That is a much harder battle to win. And it could get even worse if Brooke starts noticing Ridge's attention shifting. Because the moment Ridge becomes too invested in Taylor's love life, Brooke will have every reason to worry. What begins as concern for Taylor could quickly become obsession. And what looks like interference in one romance could create fractures in another. So Ridge may not just threaten Taylor and Deacon. He may end up putting his own marriage at risk too. In the end, Ridge may become the next major obstacle in Taylor and Deacon's romance, not because he openly declares war, but because he slowly pulls Taylor back into his orbit. That is what makes this storyline so compelling. Sheila may step aside, Deacon may fight for the relationship, Taylor may genuinely want a new future. But if Ridge starts hovering, judging, comforting, and quietly reclaiming emotional space in Taylor's life, then this romance could be in serious trouble. And the most dramatic part is that Ridge may convince himself he is doing the right thing the entire time. But on The Bold and the Beautiful, the people who cause the most damage are not always the obvious villains. Sometimes they are the ones who say they are only trying to protect the people they love. Thanks for watching. This storyline may be just beginning, and if Ridge's jealousy starts growing, Taylor and Deacon's future could become far more fragile than it looks right now.